Hi, my name is Ira Wolfe. I'm president and founder of Success Performance Solutions. One of the most common questions I receive is how do I read a pre-employment or an employee development report once I receive it. Assess is one of our most popular systems, and it's used for positions from supervisor, manager, executives, the C-level to small business owners, also for sales professionals, sales managers, and even key employees such as engineers and accountants who may have mostly technical responsibilities, but may have a few reports or actually no direct reports at all. The assessment system includes a competency-based report or just personality. I'm going to show you both here. It does provide interview questions for the hiring manager and also even management suggestions if you do hire the employee or if it's an existing employee, how you might better manage and mentor and coach that individual. So it's a very robust report. But for this short video, I wanted to show you how I look at the report when I receive it. What are the first traits or what are the first things that I look for? So I'm going to skip to the last page. In each report, there's a graphic profile. It's divided into three sections. The top section is really the reason that I highly recommend using Assess. In my opinion, it does the best job on the market of looking at how people make decisions. How do they think? How do they solve problems? What are their critical thinking skills like? How do they reach that decision? And we'll come back to that in a minute. It also looks at their work commitment or their work style, looks at such things as do they have a high energy pace, do they multitask, do they have a high need to finish what they start for task closure, what's their resilience like, are they detail oriented. Those are some of the traits that I'm often asked to assess, and Assess does this particular tool does a great job at doing that as well. And then finally it looks at relating style, relating management. It looks at assertiveness. What's their level of assertiveness? Are they more introverted or extroverted? Do they have a need to be liked? These other two scales on the bottom, criticism tolerance and self-control, are key because it looks at do they take things personal or and how do they deal with it? Do they tend to be anxious or they tend to be a little bit more cool, calm, and collected? So the first thing that I do when I see this report, we're going to move this up a little bit, I look at the thinking scales. This top scale called reflective, I call it curiosity, is does this individual tend to ask a lot of questions or do they take it at face value? So if they have a high level of curiosity, they'll be on the right. If they have a lower level of curiosity, they'll be on the left. There's no good or bad to this unless the job requires it. If there's a lot of due diligence, if you need people not to take things for granted, to just take people at their word, and that's not necessarily being skeptical or not, but basically just asking enough questions to make sure that you have the information. This is one of the key ingredients to success in what we're seeing. For many management and sales positions, the people that are most successful are on the right side, which means they're in the top 50 percentile. So if they ask more questions than 50% of the rest of the populations, they tend to be successful. It then walks you through step by step. Do they think logically, or do they just throw things against the wall and hope they stick? What's their risk tolerance or risk aversion like? Do they tend to be very cautious or are they more impulsive? Do they tend to rely on facts or do they rely on their gut to make decisions? And this last scale in today's age, especially for companies that are trying to be a little creative and open-minded and innovative, people who tend to be more on the pragmatic side tend to do things as they've always done. Not that they take things for granted, but it's always worked, so why fix it? People that are more imaginative does not mean that they're creative, but it does mean that they are more open-minded to new ideas. They may seek, they may read between the lines, see the white space, whatever metaphor you want to use, but they tend to look for new opportunity. I also look down, and I mentioned this earlier, at their work pace, their energy, multitasking, task closure, resilience, and detail orientation. But the two scales that I mentioned earlier, criticism tolerance and self-control, once I look at that reflective scale at the top on curiosity, my eyes immediately roll down to criticism tolerance and self-control. Are they thick-skinned or are they very thin-skinned? If they're thin-skinned, the more thin-skinned that an individual is, that they will take criticism and feedback very personal. If they're expressive, they really internalize it. They're anxious. They may be outspoken with that. Depending on their behavioral style, they either can yell, scream, or cry, or break down, or throw a tantrum. So ideally, you're looking for people that have some degree of open-mindedness. They're willing to accept feedback but not take it personal, and also that they have relatively good self-control, but not so much that they become complacent. That's a quick overview of the things that I look for. Again, when I receive an assess report, in summary, I immediately go to the last page of that, the graphic profile. I look at their reflectiveness, their curiosity, and then I go to criticism tolerance, self-control. Then I pop up a little bit and examine how they make a decision. I look at their energy level, multitasking, task closure, resilience, detail orientation, and I also look at their criticism tolerance and self-control. So that's a quick summary of how I would review the report. There's certainly a lot more detail. We're always there to help. And if anyone has any questions, they can contact me at my website at www.successperformancesolutions.com or call me at 800-803-4303. And thanks very much for taking some time to learn how to interpret and assess report.